I am Mr. Sunday E. Akinyemi. I had this film made because I believe that the Nigerian government should legalize the cultivation of industrial hemp, not marijuana, for two reasons. The first reason, instead of building cattle colonies to end the killings of farmers and the destruction of their crops by the Fulani herdsmen, the government should research feeding industrial hemp to cattle. According to the Cornell University in the United States of America, industrial hemp can grow by about 4 inches per day. That must be more than enough cattle feed to end the continuing bloodshed over the feeding of cattle. Additionally, the movements of cattle could be controlled with portable high-tech fences. This will keep cattle and their herders in their respective states and out of the other people's farms in the other states. No need for cattle colonies. Second reason, to provide Nigeria with its own industrial revolution, leading to new industries and products, greatly increased gross domestic product, engender policies for increased export, increased employment, research, and sustaining prosperity as the necessary foundation for successful restructuring of its political system. I'm using 3 videos to make my case. The first video, Power of Hemp and its Countless Uses, is from South Africa. It gives the history of industrial hemp and a glimpse of how it has been used in farming, medicine, home building, road building, paper making, energy, and the environment. Unless there are products currently being made from industrial hemp in Nigeria, this video should be an important call to action for our leaders, because it shows how far ahead of Nigeria is South Africa, a much smaller country, in the effort to reap the benefits of industrial hemp. Clothes, handbags, medicine, and food are currently being made in South Africa. Thank you. Enjoy the movie.
Hemp is an annual fibrous plant that is grown for many uses and has been grown in our history for up to 8,000 years. Marijuana is the either recreational use or the medicinal use of the psychoactive compounds within the cannabis plant. Industrial hemp, you get a lot of the strains that don't have the psychoactive compound THC in it at all, so absolutely useless as a drug. The history of hemp has been traced back to China to 6,000 to 8,000 BC, and it is thought of to be the first plant cultivated by man for fiber uses. From there, it can be traced in nearly every culture and every civilization, being used from everything for sails in all the ships that sailed the earth, all the ropes. The first Bible was printed on hemp paper. It was used in the building of the pyramids. Hemp moved across also through the sailing ships into the American colonies and was actually grown by George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. And people don't realize that the first drafts of the American Declaration of Independence were actually written on hemp paper. You could pay your taxes with hemp as well. Hemp is prized for its multitude of uses, and also Britain wouldn't have ruled the seas so much if they didn't have access to Russian hemp. Throughout history, hemp had a very big role in industry, but towards the sort of beginning of the 20th century, it started losing a little bit of market share to cotton because the hemp fiber it's quite hard to get off the stalk. In 1930, a man called Schlichten invented a new machine to take the fiber off hemp while it was green. The Hearst Corporation bought up the rights for this machine. They then squashed the design for this machine and ran a campaign with DuPont, who had just invented nylon, and a lot of the petrochemical industries as well, to get hemp banned because it was now competition. The history is quite involved, but when you look at the facts, there's no ways that this plant is criminalized because a part of it can be abused. It is because of its threat to major corporations and big business. When America banned hemp and put a lot of pressure on the rest of the Western world to follow suit, there was only one Western country that decided that they would continue growing, and that was France. The rest of the countries that have traditionally grown hemp have been the communist countries. You find a lot in Serbia, Hungary, obviously China being the world leader, they're growing by far the most. Since the 1990s, there's been a resurgence in the West, and Canada was the first major country that changed, and now they're growing 50,000 hectares at the moment. The UK has now got licenses, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Australia, New Zealand is looking at changing laws. The major use that most people know these days is for the textiles. The fiber of the hemp is 3 times the tensile strength of cotton, and it's a hollow fiber, so it's a lot more breathable. Wearing hemp, it's comfortable, it's breathable, it's the classic saying is it wears in, not out. The other uses that are coming up in France, they're developing the building industry. What they do is chip up the stalk and mix it with lime, and you actually get this, which is a hemp brick. The other product that's really big in building is the chipboard, which is lighter than wood, it's better insulating than wood, and obviously there are no trees going into it again, and it's on a sustainable basis. Big opportunity for Africa is the nutrition side of hemp. Hemp is the optimum ratio of omega fatty acids for our body, and the protein in it is globulin edistin. And globulin edistin is a very absorbable protein. Your body can digest it a lot easier than it can even the soy protein. So specifically for nutrition blocking diseases such as TB, it makes a very good porridge or supplement on a daily basis for people who are sick. Besides that, the oil can also be used to make fuel. It makes a really good biodiesel. Another very important use for hemp is paper. It makes up to 4 times as much pulp per acre as trees, and obviously on a sustainable basis, you're getting, after 4 to 6 months, a yield of pulp instead of waiting for 6 to 8 years or even longer for trees. There's now hemp plastic as well, this is amazing. This is coming out of Australia now. People don't realize that up to 50% of our oil goes into making plastics. That even if we stop driving cars today, it wouldn't sort out our fuel problem and our oil problem in the Middle East. So this technology is really exciting. Environmentally, hemp is a very positive plant because it grows very fast, so it absorbs a lot of carbon, which, as we all know, this is a big issue with global warming. It also cuts down your use of pesticides and other chemicals in the farming practice, so it will stop your pollution of rivers and land and all that. A Canadian company has worked out, they've grew an acre of cotton and an acre of hemp and tested the inputs of water and pesticides. And a hemp t-shirt uses 300 liters less water and 1.5 cups of pesticides less than cotton. So that is amazing. That you can actually see the effects immediately on planet saving and your costs reduction for a farmer to grow hemp versus cotton. In South Africa, currently the situation is that hemp is only grown for research purposes. It is controlled by the Department of Health, and the permit is, at the moment, currently a permit to grow a narcotic drug. It is a situation where our government is yet to recognize the difference between industrial hemp and medicinal marijuana or dacha on that side. We as Emporium see our role as very much as an educational tool at the moment. Our tagline is innovate, educate, cultivate. Innovate, we're trying to show as many different products as possible to show the versatility of the plant. The educate comes in through our exposure, through what we've created here in our space, where people walk in thinking hemp's about one thing only, and that is generally smoking. They walk in here and they learn that it's about so much more, that is something that's, doesn't even come into what we do here. This is about hemp as a building material, as a food, as a job creator, as a nice, comfortable item to wear. Obviously, the cultivate that comes in at the end is somewhere where we're aiming towards. We want to be hemp farmers, and we want to be creating jobs, we want to be building houses, and we want to be feeding people. That is our ultimate aim. I feel there's a big future for hemp in South Africa in the way that the solutions it offers are so much more needed here than they are in any of the first world countries. Here we need people to have jobs, we need people to be growing organically and looking after our soil, we need people to have houses that are built nicely. They aren't these cement brick houses with a tin roof that are absolutely terrible to live in. And then nutrition for people to feed themselves properly and to actually feel full and to have a healthy lifestyle. So it can offer a lot on that side. So yes, the future is bright if we can just get it through this system and get it to a place where a farmer can actually grow hemp as an industrial crop. I believe the hemp plant has an energy, especially because there are so many people across the planet that are fighting for its liberation. There are people who are really putting a lot of energy in educating and showing people the potential for this plant, and it is a plant that has been done an injustice. So wearing it has spirit as well, because you feel in your spirit that you're making a difference, not only in your showing to yourself or to your friends or educating people as to what you're wearing, but also in the environmental side, in the consciousness that you have saved pesticides, you have saved water as well. Usually you'll find people who are more spiritual will seek out a product such as hemp because they are now thinking, and consciousness is basically thinking and becoming aware, and very much aware of what you put on your body or what you put in your body and what you do to your immediate surroundings and the planet as a whole.
The second video, Hemp, the multi-billion-dollar crop, parts 1 and 2, shows how industrial hemp has been used in Canada, Germany, and South Korea in the areas of farming, medicine, health food, and other products.
Welcome to our Comcap Media Roundtable about hemp, the multi-billion-dollar crop. Not the stuff that makes you high and dizzy, but ingredients that make us healthier and stronger. Men have been using hemp for thousands of years. Explorers discovered continents on boats with sails and ropes made of hemp. Physicians used it for medicine. And then hemp was vilified for its exhilarating THC. Marijuana was banned, but alcohol thrived. Fiber, oil, and fuel of hemp were banned, whereas cotton, nylon, and petrol thrived. Today, companies in Canada and Germany grow industrial hemp and use it for foods, cosmetics, and medicine against severe forms of epilepsy. More and more consumers, patients, and their suppliers are just discovering how this old plant may improve their lives. That's why I now talk about this with Craig Goodwin, CEO, Director, and Founder of Naturally Splendid Enterprises in Vancouver, Canada. They sell hemp seeds to consumers, export hundreds of tons of it to South Korea, and extract healthy, active substances. David Wolf is a nutritionist and author of bestsellers like Superfoods, Longevity Now, or Sun Food Cuisine. He loves hemp for what it gives us for our healthier and happier lives. Joscha Kraus is product manager with a Berlin-based medical hemp company. They extract CBD, cannabidiol, a substance physicians use, for example, to help children with severe epilepsy. Raphael Doulon, founder and CEO of the German Hanf Farm company, grows and harvests hemp, sells seeds, oils, and related products to consumers and companies like Medical Hemp. Simon Scholes, a chartered financial analyst with First Berlin Equity Research, sees investment opportunities in the global hemp industries developing after the ban is being lifted. Craig, what do you make of hemp?
Well, you know, we make some very basic products like most other hemp companies. We harvest and shell the seeds to produce a product we call shelled hemp seed hearts. We also produce hemp protein and hemp oil, and those are our basic products. We've also invested significantly in extraction and formulation techniques to take these products and enhance them even further.
What can this do to my health?
You know, the plant...
What is good in it?
Just about everything. It has the most digestible protein of any plant on Earth. It has a fantastic ratio of omegas. In fact, the World Health Organization recognizes it as the perfect balance of omega-3 and omega-6. It has an amazing fiber profile. So the plant itself is one of the most nutritional plants that have ever been known to be on Earth.
David, you're a nutritionist. You wrote the bestseller, Superfoods. Why are you so in love with hemp?
It's so easy to grow. It's so easy to harvest. That's one of the great things about hemp, is getting the seed or threshing the seed out of the plant is so much easier than wheat or rice. Also, as Craig was saying, it's got the ideal ratio of omega-6 to omega-3, but also contains the anti-inflammatory gamma-linolenic acid, or GLA. The protein that's in hemp we call adestin. It's a globular protein, so not only is it an ideal protein and a complete protein, but it's easy to absorb, and it helps our blood to develop albumin, which is a super transporter. One more thing about hemp is its trace mineral array is about 20 trace minerals, making it one of the most unusual and one of the most important seed crops that we have in the world.
Joscha, what do you extract from hemp?
We extract actually CBD, so-called cannabidiol, from industrial hemp. We have fields in northern Berlin where we grow the hemp, and we harvest the hemp, we dry it, and then we extract it.
What does that look like if you extract cannabidiol?
Cannabidiol, it's a multi-component extract actually, so it consists of cannabidiol, but it also consists of terpenes, of flavonoids, of plant waxes, and chlorophyll.
Mm-hmm. And who needs that?
CBD has very strong antioxidant effects. It has very good anti-inflammatory effects, as well as it can help for severe morbus Crohn, for different chronic autoinflammatory diseases, yes.
There's actually medication on the German and the Swiss market since
Yes.
2011 and 2013 that has CBD. What is that?
Well, there's a pharmaceutical company called GW Pharmaceuticals who's offering pharmaceutical products. The first one is Sativex. It's a mix from CBD and THC. And the second one is right now in the pipeline. It's called Epidiolex. It's against epilepsy, yes.
Mm-hmm. David, you have a colleague who has a child that needs CBD. Why? Tell us that story.
CBD is a very important neuroprotective substance. It's one of the most powerful neuroprotective substances ever found. And this really hits home when you have somebody who works for you, as one of these gals works for me, who has a child who has neurological disorders. So it started out about 7 years ago with twitching. And this was actually a mild form of seizures, but they didn't recognize it. They didn't understand what was going on. And then later it got worse and worse and eventually got to grand mal seizures. They eventually found out about CBD and found that if it was progressing from the twitching into a grand mal seizure, a megadose of CBD would stop it. And they also found that CBD did not interfere with other medications, but they found that the other medications they had more side effects. And so that led them to focus just on CBD as their primary form of medication to deal with this seizure disorder. So this is something you can imagine being a mom and having a child that's in this situation. This has been going on for 7 years, but now they understand it. Because of CBD, they're able to stop it. And this is just a complete game changer for anybody who's had a child dealing with any kind of seizure disorder, really at all ages, because I've also seen this being very effective at children who are 3 years old or 4 years old or 5 years old, just as well as in this case, this young lady at 14 years old started having problems. Now she's 21, but CBD is also effective for that age range as well. So it's very interesting. It's not age specific. It's actually can be very helpful for even a very young child.
The medication Epidiolex is now being tried. It may be on the market mid next year. It's now being tried on 240 children in America who have severe seizures of epilepsy.
Yeah.
What is the result of that?
Well, on average, the seizures dropped by half, and for 9%, the seizures stopped completely. So that's pretty impressive.
That is a pretty impressive result
Yes.
for CBD,
For CBD,
a
yeah.
component that is so natural.
Yeah.
What more use do you already see, and who buys CBD from you now?
Well, if you see, there are 3 different markets, more or less. You have the functional food market. Think about valerian, for example. So people want plant-based sedatives, for example, or they want strong antioxidants, and also for anti-inflammatory purposes. The next thing is cosmeceuticals. People want to treat applications include, for example, treatment of psoriasis or from acne vulgaris. And the third one, of course, is the pharmaceutical market, where, for example, you mentioned it before, Epidiolex or Sativex. Mm-hmm. To treat schizophrenia, to treat epilepsy, to treat morbus Crohn. So there's a huge variety of diseases you can treat with CBD.
Mm-hmm. David, how does this change my health if I, in my mind, and how do I get through the day better if I take in like omega-3, 6, 9? What is that and what does it do to me?
Well, when we're dealing with omega-3 fatty acids and omega-6 fatty acids, these are very powerful anti-inflammatories, especially in the right ratio, which hemp has the correct ratio, about 3.3, 3.4 to 1. Now, what's also interesting, with CBD added into the mix, what we're looking at is a very powerful neurotropic, which means that it's an excellent brain substance. It can be felt almost immediately, and it protects your nervous system as well. When you put all this together, we're looking at an ideal food for the developing brains of children. We're looking at an ideal food for the elderly who are dealing with more Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's than ever before. And we're also looking at an ideal food for folks like us in our age group, where we're looking to get to that peak mental performance state. That's why hemp is surging right now, because it's meeting all the demands for all ages and markets.
Where do you see the market for all your different groups? Is it people like us who want to live better, work better, and have our minds working better?
Absolutely, and everybody else as well. It's meant for the young, the old, male, female, whether you're active physically, you want to use it for sports or training, or just to be healthier every day. The base products of hemp seed, protein, and oil should be in everybody's diet every single day. As far as the extracts like CBD, we are very much encouraged by some of the results that we've seen as well. The product range and the applications for it are practically endless. Unfortunately, there are some regulatory roadblocks in different jurisdictions. For example, the extraction and formulation in Germany is allowed. In Canada at this point, it's not allowed. But those regulations are changing. The environment is becoming far more accepting to these ingredients. We're still watching the United States use CBDs more and more every day. And there is no doubt the regulatory environment is changing. So Naturally Splendid's position is we have some base products of hemp seed and oil and protein, which we can market globally now as a functional food. And as the regulatory environment continues to positively evolve globally, it's opening up so much more opportunity. And in fact, Naturally Splendid has positioned itself very well indeed by investing in science and technology, research and development, and has also purchased 50% of a processing facility that allows for the extraction and formulation not only of omegas, but as the regulatory environment evolves, to cannabinoids such as cannabidiol.
How did you feel the environment was for you when you started working for medical hemp? How many prejudice is there in the world? How many people look at you like, you're doing drugs?
Well, yeah, that's true. Like in the beginning, a lot of people were, are you serious about this? Is it legal? That was one of the most questions. Or what are you doing? Is it legal or illegal? You're working with hemp, with cannabis actually. Is it allowed in Germany? But yes, because we work with industrial hemp, so it has very low THC. It's below 0.2%. So yes, it's allowed, and it's
being tested and
it's
checked
been
also.
tested,
People
definitely,
walk to
yes.
your fields and...
Yes, of course, we have authorities checking our THC levels, and also later on for the extract, so everything is fine and within the law.
Where do you see the growth opportunity in your market? Who do you believe of those among those countries and clients you already have will discover it more?
Well, I think the American market is huge. Definitely, but also the European market. The European market is still very undeveloped in regards to cannabidiol. Also, interesting market and very big market is the Asian market. Asian market is, I think there's no CBD there. Like it started a little bit in Japan, but there is a huge potential still there, yes.
David, how do you explain that we've been discovering this now? Because we're talking about a plant that's been there for thousands of years, thinking that continents would not have been discovered without hemp for ropes and sails. People used hemp to pull water out of their wells. And how come all of a sudden it was vilified?
We're dealing with a world where certain interests want their products in front of you, and certain interests would rather vilify certain products to make sure that their products get sold versus, for example, hemp products. Now, something like that and a marketing campaign like that can only work for so long. Hemp is so easy to grow. It's so easy to process. It's so easy to eat. It tastes great. It's so good for you that even the most negative marketing programs against hemp are going to eventually fail, which they have. Now we're at that point where an opportunity has befallen all of us, where suddenly we can access a medicine that's been available to our ancestors. Our ancestors ate hemp leaf as a salad green. Our ancestors ate hemp seed as a source of protein and omega-3 fatty acids. Our ancestors, of course, used hemp to produce fibers and ropes and even textiles for clothing. So all of these opportunities have been there before, but now we get to bring them to that next level of technology. And what I love about this is that even industrial hemp is capable of bringing us that very thing we need right now, which is protection of our nervous system. That's what CBD is all about. We have an epidemic in America, for example. 25% of the population is on some kind of anti-anxiety medication or antidepressant medication or some kind of a mental disorder medication. Well, all of these things can be supported, helped, or even alleviated by CBD. So there's nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come, and the idea of hemp and CBD is here now.
What is your experience as an entrepreneur exploiting hemp, and so few people are aware how long it has already been around and why it's good stuff, whereas it's been forbidden for so long?
It really has created the opportunity for Naturally Splendid. The fact that it was prohibited for so many years and sat there on a shelf while other crops were commercialized has created the opportunity for all of us on this panel today. The fact that you can only have scare tactics for so long. And this is what David, to reinforce what he is saying, there was a big scare campaign in the 40s about marijuana, industrial hemp, and all the bad things that it could possibly do to you. And there were other products that were brought on behind it. Instead of using hemp for paper, they started cutting down trees. And instead of using hemp for fiber, they started making petrol and really putting a big burden on the environment. As the world becomes more aware of the environment, it's one of the drivers for hemp because it's such a wonderful plant. It actually leaves the ground in better condition after it grows, unlike other crops like cotton that takes so much of the nutrient out of the ground. Hemp puts it back in. So it can only be hidden for so long, and people can only be misled and scared for so long. I think the internet has helped immensely for people to do their own research and find out the truth about hemp. It's undeniable what the nutritional value is. It's undeniable the medicinal benefits of it. It hasn't been around for 6,000 years and been used by civilization the world over for any other reason that it's an amazing plant, and it simply is what it is. We are just beginning to understand the full benefit of this, and the world very much wants hemp to come online now. We are seeing regulations the world over change. Geographical regions that have been very adverse to drugs, and I'm thinking about Asia, where even the lightest of drugs are prohibited, are now accepting industrial hemp as food, as functional food, and as medicine. And this is the opportunity. In the United States of America, only 1% of the people are even aware that hemp is a functional food. 4% of the people in Canada that feeds the world with industrial hemp. Just 4% of us know the functional and health benefits of this product. So we are at the very beginning of what will be a very big market. This will follow in the steps of other agricultural crops out of Canada, such as canola, that started off as a very small niche crop and is now a multi-billion-dollar success story. Hemp will be that next multi-billion-dollar success story.
You export hundreds of tons to South Korea.
Yeah.
What did they discover in it that they want so much of it now?
You know, it was like night and day. There was small amounts of the product going into South Korea for a couple of years. And then they did a couple of shows, talk shows, where they talked about the health benefits of hemp. And it began to catch on and catch fire in South Korea. They have an unusual opportunity there because of what they have as a home shopping channel. But there's no better way to tell the benefits of this plant than to have a show where they can talk about how to use it, and if you use it properly, the health benefits of it. It's very tough to get that messaging across in other jurisdictions when the bag or the container is simply sitting on the shelf. But when you have an opportunity to educate the masses, and that's what the difference is, the educating of the masses, the market took off. And we now ship, as you said, hundreds of tons of industrial hemp seed, which we call hemp hearts, to South Korea. And that is just the first product. The opportunity for hemp oils and proteins and cannabinoids, specifically cannabidiol, we are just starting to penetrate the Asian region, and it is a fantastic opportunity.
Cotton is known for needing a lot of pesticides.
Yeah.
How much chemicals do you need to grow hemp?
You don't.
What, none?
You
That's bad business for Bayer.
Well, it is, and not only does cotton use an incredibly large amount of pesticides, it also consumes massive amounts of water. David probably knows the stats better than I do as far as how much water like a simple cotton T-shirt needs. It's like hundreds of gallons for one T-shirt, where hemp survives.
Something like 100 gallons.
Yeah.
But even worse on the pesticide levels, because I spent a lot of time working near cotton farms. 7 sprays in a season, every season. So year after year after year to accumulate. So you can imagine 7 years later, that's 49 applications of pesticides where hemp can be grown without any. And again, what you were saying is that cotton is not only pulling a lot of water, it's pulling a lot of minerals from the soil. It depletes the soil. And hemp restores the soil and actually is a carbon sequestration plant. So it's drawing in this carbon that we're blowing into the atmosphere through burning fossil fuels. It's drawing it back into the earth. And this is why hemp is not only the plant of the future, but it's the solution for the future of environmentally friendly farming.
To draw CO2 from the air, you can have a forest or you can have a hemp field. What's the comparison?
They're very comparable, actually. In terms of an annual crop, nothing compares to hemp in sequestering carbon from the atmosphere. Obviously, a forest is going to be even superior, especially an old growth forest. So we're always going to want to have that opportunity to plant more trees and sequester more carbon, but then farming will always exist. So which crops are we going to farm environmentally? What are sustainable crops that will help the atmosphere and draw down greenhouse gases? Hemp leads in that field.
A forest takes 25 years to grow till you can cut it. How long does it take for a hemp field to grow till you cut it?
Great question. 4 months.
So you can harvest it 3 times a year.
Actually, you can't. Right now, we're working with a single crop in Canada, and we had to have it down to about 11 or 12 weeks, David. And that's the most amazing part. When I take a look at things like cutting down old forest for paper and ridiculous uses, when that could all come from hemp. Why are we cutting down trees that are hundreds of years old that will never be replaced in our lifetime when you can grow hemp in 11 weeks? It just makes no sense whatsoever. It's one of the reasons why Naturally Splendid was formed. We believed passionately about working positively in the environment, and in coming from Canada where we have many great forests, it's tragic to see them cut down for one use for paper for once, and that forest is gone in our lifetime. And when you can grow hemp in 11 weeks, I cannot for the life of me figure out why we're not doing that in a more significant manner right now, but that's what creates the opportunity for us again.
So someday I'll be sitting here not in a cotton shirt, but in a hemp shirt?
Absolutely you will.
And what more material could you produce with the part of the plant you're actually not using now?
You know, we right now are looking for a single hemp plant that has multi-uses. What we grow for food is not necessarily the same one that we grow for fiber, and now we're looking for hemp breeds that also have high CBD. So if somebody begins to develop a plant or the breed that is good for fiber and good for oil with high CBD in it, we have just now created the trifecta of power. You've already taken a plant that has amazing attributes and combined them into one even more beneficial plant. They're using fiber in such applications as Mercedes, Porsche, Boeing airplanes are using fiber to create these aircrafts. In 1942, Henry Ford made a car, a body made of hemp and a couple of other products, agricultural products, sisal, I believe. It was 10 times the strength of steel. It was a fraction of the weight. We did this in the 40s. And yet we went in another direction through these scare tactics that were launched on North America in particular, and we got away from this amazing plant, but we're getting back to it now. And we're using these fibers for amazing things in places such as Porsche and Mercedes. And that is just the very beginning of this opportunity.
Yasha, if you use hemp for medical purposes,
yes,
you must be sure it's clean.
Yes.
There can't be any residues of pesticides or whatsoever.
Right.
How do you test that, and why is hemp good?
Quality is very important. We test all of our products regarding pesticides, microbiology, and heavy metals. So we can be sure that none of those can be detected, and we can sell it to our customers, and they don't have to worry about it.
Welcome to the second part of the ComCap Media Roundtable on hemp, the multi-billion-dollar crop. More and more consumers, patients, and their suppliers are just discovering how this old plant may improve their lives. That's why I now talk about this with Craig Goodwin, CEO, Director, and Founder of Naturally Splendid Enterprises in Vancouver, Canada. They sell hemp seeds to consumers, export hundreds of tons of it to South Korea, and extract healthy, active substances. David Wolf is a nutritionist and author of bestsellers like Superfoods, Longevity Now, or Sun Food Cuisine. He loves hemp for what it gives us for our healthier and happier lives. Simon Scholes, a chartered financial analyst with First Berlin Equity Research, sees investment opportunities in the global hemp industries developing after the ban is being lifted. Now let's welcome Raphael Dulon, founder and CEO of the German Hanf Farm Company. He grows and harvests hemp and sells it to companies like Medical Hemp. He also produces and sells oils, cookies, and snacks. Raphael, what made you become a hemp farmer?
As it was exactly one book, and we here in Germany call it the Yellow Bible. And in 1993, that book came out on the market, and it was just describing the potential of that plant. And I was so happy to read that, because at that time I was already working in organic agriculture. And so it was really interesting for me to see there's a crop which we were not used to, but it has so many opportunities for human being and for the agriculture as well.
So you already discovered that in the early 90s, and in the late 90s, it was legal to grow industrial hemp in Germany. Now, if you grow industrial hemp, what effect does that have to the soil as compared to other things you may grow?
The effect of the hemp cultivation for the soil is really great. At the first moment, and especially in organic agriculture, it is quite important, you have an interesting effect on weed control, because the hemp plant is making such a big shadow that weed, which is usually coming, has no chance to grow. So this is very important, because this effect of weed control longs over many, many years. And there are many other points about the content of the nutritions and the content of the soil and the structure of the soil, which is quite important for the next crop. Because the next crop which you grow after hemp will have a better yield. This is now scientifically proved that you have a certain amount of a better yield, and you do have less problems with your weeds. So even if you do conventional farming, you need not so much pesticides and so on. Or if you do organic farming, it is just better for your crop, because it's all better and it's all clean.
So do some farmers just use hemp for 1 year to improve their soil, and the next year they grow something else?
Yes, exactly. They are putting it into their crop rotation. So they have 1 year with hemp, and all the other years, 3 or 5 years, depends on your system, they can grow anything else, and then hemp comes back.
What else do you do with it? You work with farmers who grow your hemp. What else do you produce? What do you make of your hemp?
We are getting out of it many different products. So when we harvest in the early summer, we are able to cut the tops, and so we get only the leaves and some blossom and flower of the plant, which is very powerful, has good ingredients, and you can make tea out of it. And
David loves hemp tea, don't you?
Absolutely.
What do you take it for?
One of the things that came up years ago is I was doing an experiment on different teas. And if you made a tea and let it sit open, how long it would take for bacteria to grow. Hemp tea, no matter what other herbs it was mixed in or by itself, always won that contest, meaning it prevents bacterial growth in that tea sitting open for 8 days, longer than any other herb, even Amazonian herbs. And that was one of the things that triggered me. That's when I realized that hemp is very powerful. It may be due to the silica content in hemp leaf, which is also something very good for our bones.
Bones? I know women who get osteoporosis, things like that. And they're always worried about their hair and their fingernails. Can you use it for that?
That's exactly it. Silica is known to be great for bones, hair, and nails. It's a beauty mineral, and it's the forgotten mineral. We hear all about calcium. Even sometimes we hear about phosphorus for building strong bones. Never is silica talked about, but silica, in my mind, especially as we age, is the most important of both of those. It's more important than calcium or phosphorus for building strong bones, healthy nails, and beautiful hair.
Mm-hmm. Rafa, you do a little bit of what Craig does on a local scale. Your business is far smaller than yours, and I'm glad you're here to show that it works on big scale. It also works on more local scale.
yes, you just mentioned Craig, and I'm very, very happy to see how Natural Splendid is growing, or was growing over the last years, and is now booming.
The business opportunity isn't limited by the market. It isn't limited by the opportunity. It's not limited by the uses of products that we can develop from this, from these amazing ingredients. What we're limited to right now is that we don't have enough acreage. We grew less than 100,000 acres of hemp in Canada this year, and we're the largest hemp-producing country in the world when it relates to seeds. We are limited by how much we can produce. But the good news is, once again, farmers make more money growing hemp than any other crop they can possibly grow. And in Canada, Raphael, we're limited, like you know, we cannot extract the cannabinoids from hemp yet. Our regulatory environment does not allow for maximum economic yield of this plant, yet it's still an amazing, beneficially financial crop for farmers, not only for that season, but as you know, for the seasons after, for the crops that follow. Yep. So farmers will fall in line. They will grow this crop. They have every reason to. It's good for the year they grow it. It's good for every year afterwards. And now they're making more money because companies like Raphael and Naturally Splendid are going out creating new markets. And in truth, the markets are coming to us. We're not have any lack of opportunity in many countries. We can expand very quickly. What we need to catch up is cultivation.
We are totally convinced that we will have that boom here in Europe as well. And so at the moment, we are making products like nutritional food products. So we
I
have
remember
hemp
your
seed.
website. I've seen oil.
Yeah.
And you know what sticks to my mind when I see cookies? I see cookies and snack bars.
Yes, we have all this stuff where you are used to have, for example, nuts. And you can use the hemp seed. They are botanically called nuts as well. But they are not, how do you call it? They help me with allergens.
They're not allergenic.
That's an important point because we have seen an epidemic of allergies to peanuts, allergies to all different kinds of nuts, even almonds, walnuts, pecans. And when you're dealing with hemp, you've got a really nice ratio of protein to oil, better than nuts. Most nuts are a little bit too oily, so they sit very heavy in most people's digestive systems. But when you're dealing with hemp, it actually is really more friendly to the digestive system of most human beings because it has that right ratio of protein. Nuts, yes, they do contain protein, but not the same amount, not the ideal ratio of protein as what hemp has.
Mm-hmm. What do we have here? You brought us something. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is this? What do we see here?
Well, that is the most basic of hemp products. That's a shelled, hulled hemp seed, also known as hemp seed hearts. And this is the perfect food. It is a great protein, a complete protein, which is unusual for plants. This is full of omegas, full of fiber, full of minerals. This itself is a fantastic product. You can refine it further. We press it while still in the seed, and it becomes a concentrated protein. So if you want a higher protein content, hemp seed has about 33% protein. And we can refine this up to about 50% protein, even higher if we want. 50% seems to be that right area to be in. You can produce it commercially viable, still make it affordable, and it delivers a great protein punch.
I think of my friends in the gym who want to grow their muscles, and when I hear you say protein and I see a powder, I think of the horrible powder they always buy, and I think it tastes horribly. And I don't even want to know what's in there. Would this help my friends in the gym to maybe grow muscles one day?
You know, there's a reason why you buy those giant tubs of other protein, primarily whey. And for most whey production, it's highly processed, lots of chemical processes and extraction. This protein is created very simply. You take the seed, we call it cold pressing. Farmers have been doing this for hundreds of years. You literally squish the seeds, and out one side comes oil, and out one side comes cake, is what we call it. You simply sift it, and that's what this is. There's no other chemicals. We haven't done any other processes to it. We've simply taken this product and refined and separated the protein from it. No chemicals, no big, long extraction process, simply cold pressing like we've been doing for hundreds of years into a refined product. This is why it's such a fabulous product.
Mm-hmm. You press it and you have oil. Oil in a bottle looks like oil in a bottle. This is why we don't have it here. What did you produce here? What is this?
This is actually hemp oil. So before we turn it into this powder, imagine, if you will, a product more people are familiar with, olive oil. Mm-hmm. So hemp oil looks very similar to that, same color, same texture. But you have limited commercial opportunities, even for an olive oil. You put it in a bottle, you add it to salads, but how do you get this amazing omega nutrition into the largest variety of products? Look for as many commercial applications as possible in the health and nutrition area. So the oil that is very similar looking to an olive oil is then goes through an extraction and formulation process for an encapsulated product that turns it into a water dispersible powder. The reason we do this is that a water dispersible powder can be used in far more applications. The opportunity to provide hemp omega, which is our trade name for this, is much greater. So we have an ability to provide health and nutrition to a much wider variety of people. And when we put it in this form, not only for human orally to consume it, we can also use it in topicals. We actually have pet applications, and we're using some technologies and infusing feedstock. So we can make, for example, poultry. We've done a study at the University of Manitoba, and we have used hemp omega in their diet. And it has increased the omega in the eggs up to 500%. Now, omega eggs in the North American market demand a premium on the shelf. You get your regular eggs for a couple of dollars a dozen, then you have your free-range eggs, and then up here in the price is omega eggs. But if you take a look at the nutritional value in it, David, it's very minimal. So to be able to include this into feed for poultry is an amazing market itself, especially when you get 500% more omega in the eggs from the poultry that eat this. And in fact, the essential fatty acids transfer into the meat as well, 300% or more omegas in the meat of the chicken, and it's reducing the trans fats. So you couldn't do that with a hemp oil, because how do you mix it into the seed? So we take that hemp oil, refine it down to this water dispersible powder, and we're able to use far greater applications, far more commercial opportunities, but the key is it's more bioavailable and it's more sustainable in the body. So there's two types of sustainability, of course. One is a sustainable agricultural practice. Is this good for the environment? But the other sustainability is how long does that nutrition sustain in your body? So this plant-based omega ingredient has superior bioavailability and superior sustainability in your body. And this creates maximum nutritional benefit.
What do you think about this powder that comes out of a process?
The first thing that came to mind, and it's the most important thing in nutrition, is flavor. It tastes good. You can actually eat that straight. So for example, some people, their blood sugar drops every 2 hours. They have to have some kind of protein every 2 hours. A tablespoon of that hemp protein right there can keep your blood sugar stable all day long. You'll lose weight, you'll have energy, plus you're having an incredible array of not only that protein, but you're also still getting about 20% of those oils. So you're still gonna get some omega-3 and some omega-6 and some GLA that's there, and some minerals, of course. So it's a great weight loss food. You can see that he's taken it to that next step over there with the white powder, which is also very interesting, where what he's really done there is taken hemp oil and made it into a powder. Now that brings tremendous benefits because there are an enormous amount of bars out on the market, cereals out on the market, snack foods, where you could add those omega-3 fatty acids, those omega-6 fatty acids, those GLA fatty acids, in order to get more well-rounded, more natural, healthy balance of fatty acids, what our brain needs, what we need for an anti-inflammatory effect in our joints. So these products right here, especially the protein and the dried and powdered hemp oil, have tremendous market viability.
This is made of hemp oil. This reminds me of something of your confessions right before the show. I'm gonna out you now. He has a secret drug. He has a little bottle in his fridge. And when he feels a little nervous or under stress, right?
Yeah.
Like you did before this first television show in your life, what did you drink?
Hemp seed oil, of course.
And how does that make you feel?
Yes, hemp seed oil makes you feel better, and it really makes something in your endocannabinoid system. So all these fatty acids help you to have everything regulated. And one very special thing is that your happiness is regulated by these part of your body, your metabolism. And I feel it in my brain. There is some energy, there's something happening And yeah, it works.
Great, I see you're good. Now,
We should get into that about the brain.
Yeah, go.
So when you say you feel it in your brain, how long does that take, and what do you feel more specifically in your brain?
Hard to explain for a man, what do I feel, you know that. But it is very easy. It is some energy. It is something like, it is getting warmer somehow, and there is something what we call in Germany kribbling. It is something pulsing there. That's what I feel, and it is very positive.
I feel like hemp seed oil is such an important brain food that when you say you're feeling it immediately, it really makes sense to me, because hemp oil is one of the primary constituents of our brain. It's got the omega-3 fatty acids, it's got the omega-6. It's what we need for cognition. And to me, it's a nootropic, which means that it helps us to become smarter.
Yeah.
And that's something about hemp seed that's really bringing it, I believe, up into the light right now, is that people want that edge.
Yeah.
They want something that gives them a little bit of a nutritional edge, and hemp seed and hemp oil products are that thing.
Yeah.
And the range that it's good for, Raphael, is the very young for brain development, but also for the elderly, for continued brain health. So it doesn't work, for when you're 1 to 3 years old and then you have no more benefit, or when you're 50 to 60 years old. This is meant for everybody, for the young, for the old, for everybody in between as you're growing, to use it as a brain food. It's funny, maybe that's one of the reasons why it is popular in South Korea. Education is held in very high regard in Asian regions. Not that it isn't in many other regions, but there's a particular emphasis in that region. And I think that they see the opportunity for increased brain health and increased brain productivity. And it's funny, when you said you read a book, I'm just amazed. When I read it, the first thing I thought, Raphael, it's too good to be true.
Yeah.
It can't be great for the environment. It can't be great for the body and the mind and the spirit and all of these things, and economically viable and all these great things about it. It's impossible for all this to be true, but it is true. And it's why pioneers like yourself in Germany, we embrace, you as part of the hemp family. And it's an unusual position to be in business. Usually we'd be competitors, but we're not. We, in the hemp family, are driving nutrition to as many people as possible. I'm so pleased that other regions are progressing, maybe not in acreage, but some of the regulatory environment is evolving even faster. For example, in the cannabinoid extraction and formulation area.
Yes.
And that encourages me that Canada will fall in line, that the United States of America will make it acceptable across all the states. And we're getting there. And the more people that we bring into the family like yourself, the stronger we become. So I did the same thing. I read some information about hemp. I said, this is absolutely too good to be true. I reached out to agricultural experts who were experts in Canadian agricultural crops. And they were absolutely amazed, and to a person, when they read the information that I provided to them, they joined our team. I've yet to meet a single person that I've exposed to this amazing plant that said, it's not for me, whether it's taken personally or not for me as a business opportunity or not for me environmentally, because there's just no reason not to be involved in this amazing plant, except if you want to compare it to the visual aspect of it. It looks like a marijuana leaf, and we need to get past that stigma. We know those roadblocks are coming down, and I think the social media, the internet is what's driving this. Education, people taking responsibility for their own health and wellness. And David's been a pioneer in that for decades before it was popular, before it was trendy. You were on this path, you're a pioneer in this area, and to see it come to full circle now where plant-based nutrition and your health and your wellness is very much top of mind awareness, and that you can make it a business opportunity at the same time, is really the best combination. Because to be able to provide the nutrition and the products that we can from hemp, there has to be an economic model that works. And that's the magic in hemp.
David, among all of us, you have the largest audience, and you are so closely in touch with people who read your books. What are they interested in? What do they want? It's not all about hemp. It's about healthy living and good nutrition, leaving out junk. What do they tell you?
They are becoming more sophisticated. It's really incredible what's happening. Whereas in the old days, we'd be talking about hemp seed and trying to get people to even try it. Everybody out of those hundreds of millions of people has heard of hemp seed at this point. Many have tried it. Many are using hemp protein as part of their regular lifestyle. Many are involved in using hemp oil, for example, and not just olive oil like the old days. It's a tremendous sophistication now. These people are also excited about the CBD revolution. In the old days, I'd put something out about CBD, people would have no idea what I'm talking about. Now cannabidiol is the talk of the internet. It is incredible. For example, just the other day I put out a CBD post, so a little educational piece, a little meme or infographic about CBD. It reached 1.5 million people. And the comments are amazing because people are starting to realize that we do have the solutions. The plants are here that can help us. And the next piece is, okay, how do we act on this? Do we grow it? You know, a lot of people have gotten into growing hemp. A lot of people have gotten into selling hemp. A lot of people have gotten into opening health food stores to bring it in. A lot of people are now creating cooperative buying environments where we all get together, all our Facebook friends, for example, and we buy products together so we can get a better price. So we're like a little health food store. This is what's happening online. The legalization of hemp in North America, in my opinion, has a lot to do with what's happened due to the internet. It's the education barrier has been overcome. In the old days, it was very hard to get to you and educate you about hemp or about CBD or about omega-3 fatty acids. Now it's easy. And that's caused a major change in the buying power, the interest, the excitement, the passion that folks have for this product, and also the effects. People have now tried these things and found, wow, this is the right protein. This is the right omega-3. I can feel what it's doing for me. I like this better than other seeds like rice or wheat. It's a more appropriate crop and it's environmentally friendly.
In what countries are your viewers or followers or those who read you and interact with you?
All over the world, every country on earth. India, Philippines. We have enormous outreach in Australia, the UK, Germany, Scandinavia, New Zealand, of course North America, Brazil, South American countries like Colombia, Peru, even countries that don't speak English, we still have enormous amount of fans. Every time I go and check the demographics of who's tuning into our messaging, it's expanding to places I never even heard of. Places in Africa I never heard of, countries, huge countries in Africa like Nigeria and Uganda and Kenya. These places are now turning on to hemp. They're turning on to health. And we're seeing a transformation in our world due to social media. So I do want to say something about social media here that I find to be absolutely fascinating. In studying health, I found that the #1 cause of health is not what we think it is. It's actually connection. The #1 cause of health is support, family, friendship, love. And the social media outreach allows us to connect with like-minded people around the world and feel supported. So it's secretly causing the greatest health revolution in the history of the world.
Good to have you here because you're so much in touch with the audience. Craig, we talked about this powder. What is in here? Is that the box for this hemp omega powder?
Exactly. That's the packaging for the hemp omega.
And we've got a little bottle here.
We do. That is.
Well, this is what bitter medicine looks like.
Yes.
Bitter medicine, something like you really want to try, isn't it? When it comes in a brown bottle, you go like, I'm not sick. I don't need it. But it's for the light protection, I suppose. It's
well, you know what it is. It's point well taken. This product we're developing right now. We're working on the actually imaging and the packaging for it. This is simply the sample bottle for it. But you do need to protect it in a dark bottle because the oil itself is very sensitive to light. It oxidizes very quickly. I can remember myself, David, I don't know about you, but I remember my mom chasing me around the kitchen when I was 4 and 5 years old with that awful cod liver oil. And some of my most awful memories, God bless my mother's soul, but it was her chasing me around that kitchen with that cod liver oil. And it's as terrible today as it was 40 some odd years ago. This, on the other hand, has that bioavailability that we're talking about, the sustainability that we're talking about, but it's tasteless. Or if we want, we can flavor it. So if it's meant for children, maybe you go for a flavor that they like, but it's very adaptable. Unlike an ingredient like sugar, where you would adjust your recipe to fit the sugar, this emulsion, this hemp omega, hemp oil emulsion, can be adjusted for particular oil loads, and we can make it different consistency as far as thickness. So it's completely adaptable to the widest range of application, and it doesn't stop at human, but it's also fantastic for pets or livestock as well. One of the big challenges is consistency, efficacious, measurable dosages. And it's hard to get powders to be spread or measured evenly in ingredients. Sometimes it's a challenge. But when you make a bar like Raphael does, if you had one more process and simply sprayed the oil on at the end of it, now you have even, equal, efficacious, measurable dosages. And you can get away from a healthy bar to now a functional bar. And as far as developing products, you can go all the way to pharmaceutical. There are companies out there that do that, GW Pharma, we've mentioned them earlier, but there's a way to get to nutraceutical where you don't need 3 or 5 years of clinical studies. And yet, from an economic side, they're important to us as well, because that's a healthy company, can produce healthy products, is that you don't have to have the capital expenditure to get the pharmaceutical. Yet you can capture most of that revenue model, because the product gets out of that simple food to a functional food, and then that nutraceutical level. So on the opportunity to deliver omega nutrition, these two products here allow us to penetrate omega markets that have been dominated by marine-based products. And plant-based omegas for absorbability, and this is your wheelhouse more than mine, David, but a plant-based omega nutrition is absorbable into the body and is equal or has the same benefits as fish oils. But environmentally and sustainability, the marine-based products simply cannot provide the nutrition that we need for the increasing omega nutrition that the world demands. This is the beginning of the products. We're at the very beginning of this industry, and you know it as well as I do. We're just beginning to see the opportunity for hemp and the derivatives that we can provide from it.
David, what do you think your audience goes for?
Well, when I see the emulsion product here, that omega-3 oil, it's now a powder, I see a tremendous story that can be told to my audience, a story they want to hear about how this can be used, how it can affect a transformation in all our foods. It can be added to all our foods. It can be added to fish oil so that most fish oils are very top heavy. That's why you keep burping it up. With all those phospholipids that are in there, those intermediary fatty acids, it makes everything more digestible, makes all those fatty acids more digestible. So this is a story that I keep telling Craig that we're going to tell to my audience. And we're going to show my audience how this product is made. When it comes to these hemp seed products like the hemp protein and the hemp seeds, these products are massive products already. It's a mega boom in the United States and Canada with these types of products.
They just eat it.
Just to eat it, to add it to smoothies. I mean, really, to be perfectly honest, what's happening is this is a tub that's sitting there on the kitchen counter, and they take their NutriBullet blender or whatever blender they've got, and they toss a tablespoon in there with a banana, with their berries. Maybe they take another superfood that they like a blue-green algae or spirulina, throw that in there, throw in their spring water or their coconut water, and boom, blast that off, and then that's their drink for the morning, and they go running out the door. So in my world, the context that we present these food products to people, it's in a recipe, a basic smoothie recipe.
So it's going to be just one of those things you have in the kitchen without asking questions.
That's
like
right.
You got the sugar, you got the coffee, you got the bread is somewhere, and maybe Germans, we love muesli. And you got some hemp seed, and it's just you put it here, put it there, you add it there, you put it in your omelette if you like. Can't you?
That's also happening, yes. We're seeing people putting it into their omelet. We're seeing people baking with hemp seed, hemp protein, using hemp oil in all different kinds of contexts. For example, when we make a hot chocolate, I like to add a little bit of oil into the mix, something that just adds a little bit of that nutty flavor.
Yes.
So, because when you're doing hot chocolate, if it's just chocolate and hot water, it's top heavy. It needs something in the middle. And hemp oil or hemp seed can be that perfect thing in the middle. What's amazing is that these things can do well hot. Not just as a cold food product like this, but also as a hot food and mixed into soups. I mean, forget about it. You can get these things into soups. You can sprinkle them on top of all different kinds of desserts. It just goes on and on and on. This is a chef's dream.
I imagine that on my ice cream. I've got another excuse for ice cream now. I need the ice cream to have hemp on it.
Now with ice cream, this is interesting because you have those butter oils, those buttery fats in there, and these are those intermediary phospholipids, so it's actually going to be more complete. It's going to taste more complete, and you'll digest it better with the hemp seed there.
We all love pasta. We do some sauce to the pasta. You add that.
Absolutely.
Because you got it in the kitchen. It's like 1 second
Yeah.
movement.
You add this to everything. You increase the nutritional profile of everything that you eat. Like Raphael takes his hemp oil every single day, and that's what makes him feel good. And the consistency of taking that hemp oil is what's providing you with the maximum health benefits, is what you've told us. It's the same thing with hemp seed. You add it to everything that you eat. You put it on your cereal in the morning. You put it on your salad at lunch. You add it to your pizza if you want. My son, what he likes to do is he'll peel a banana, and he'll have some hemp seed on a plate, and he'll stick the end of the banana in and eat it all day long. And when you say ice cream, that's my father's excuse for eating ice cream, is he puts hemp seed on it. I'm, Dad, don't eat so much ice cream. I'm eating hemp seed. And that's what he tells me he's doing. So, you know what? Increase the nutritional profile of everything that you eat.
What do you do with the rest of the plant?
Yeah, the rest is the straw or the stalks, which we leave after we harvest the seed. And in there are fibers, so natural fiber. And natural fiber were used by mankind for many, many things.
David, what more applications do you see for the fiber of the plant?
Hempcrete, I can see as building material. Hempcrete.
That's a new term now. Instead of concrete, we say hempcrete.
Hempcrete. So you've got the fiber built into the brick. And not only does that produce an amazing insulative brick, but it also sequesters CO2. It's still, even when the brick is formed and sitting there, it's attracting CO2 and sucking it into the material, and that continues to go on. It's a flexible material. It's basically the future of green construction.
The third and last video. Why hemp can save humankind? Research scientist speaks out. It's included to help generate discussions among researchers, academics, entrepreneurs, federal and local governments to provide directions into research for more products and services from the industrial hemp.
I have a really interesting update for you on hemp, the science of medicinal marijuana. My name is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger. I'm the Lab Science Director of CWCLabs.com. I'm also the founder of naturalnews.com. So I'm a longtime investigative journalist and researcher into natural medicine. And more recently, over the last couple of years, I've really poured into the science of analytical testing. In my laboratory right now, for example, we run an LC-MS time-of-flight system, which is it's a mass spec, obviously, based on liquid chromatography. And yet the time-of-flight system does a full scan of the entire spectra thousands of times a second during the chromatography elution from the column. In other words, it's an extraordinary instrument for finding unknowns. And I can mine the data that comes out of that for unknown molecules, looking at mass to charge ratios, M plus H, retention times, fragmentation patterns, and other things like that. And I'm not gonna go total geek on you here, so don't worry. My point is, I've been really studying hemp extracts lately, And these are low THC hemp extracts, by the way. I don't handle the psychoactive components. It's not legal, and it's not even my area of interest. I'm interested in the medicinal aspects of the non-psychoactive constituents of the hemp plant. The CBD, the cannabidiols, the cannabinol, cannabidiolic acid, various cannabinoids that are incredibly powerful. And I'm here to tell you that as a food scientist, I am absolutely blown away at the complexity of this plant and also its efficacy in being such an amazing, healing, curative, restorative plant for humankind. I'm even convinced at this point. I've been studying the molecular structures and the transformation of the molecules. What happens where you have carboxylic acid from the plant that is then transformed into a non-esterified form of the molecule that is psychoactive in the case of THC or non-psychoactive in the case of CBD, but they have the same number of elements, they have the same molecular weights, they're just arranged slightly differently, and one can change into the other under certain conditions. I am convinced there is something that almost seems to be intelligently designed about this plant. It is almost as if this wasn't just some random Mother Nature mutation that sprouted out of the dirt. It's almost like, and I say this metaphorically, but it's almost like God himself put this plant on this planet to heal humanity. It is so extraordinary to me as a nutritionist and a researcher and now a food scientist. As I'm peeling away the layers of this plant, it's blowing my mind. And I'm not a user of it in terms of THC. I don't actually smoke marijuana, never have. I don't use psychoactive compounds of any kind. I'm a research scientist, but I use non-psychoactive components such as CBD. But I am blown away by this plant. It is the complexity and yet the delicacy of it is so far beyond anything that I've found in any other superfood or healing plant, from turmeric to resveratrol found in red wine and grapes and so on. This is more complex than anything I've seen in bee pollen or spirulina or, I mean, just any superfood imaginable, from chia seeds to, I don't know, I mean, you name it. There's nothing like hemp. It is, I'm just astonished. I'm astonished at how these things transform from one form to another. For example, out of the raw plant, you have THCA, which is a carboxylic acid, esterified form of THC that is not psychoactive, but once it is burned, i.e., smoked or heated at high temperatures, the carboxylic acid tag along, if you will, on the molecular structure is released, and it becomes pure THC, and it becomes extremely psychoactive at that point because it fits like a lock and key arrangement to certain receptors in your neurology, but not just in your neurology, also in other organs around your body. And I believe there are parts of this that give it a potent anti-cancer effect, a potent anti-seizure effect, and many other extraordinary effects like a CBN, the cannabinols, is like a sleep aid. It can help you relax. And meanwhile, the CBD, the cannabidiol, is anti-seizure and anti-epilepsy, and it helps people even who have facial tics or uncontrollable neurological events. It helps them relax and regain control over their neurology. And just looking at how this plant produces this, it is difficult for me as a food scientist to believe that this is just pure chance, pure accident. It's as if this was designed to heal humanity. This was not, I didn't pre-decide this and then start looking at the plant. This conclusion came to me as I began to do the science. I'm doing the chromatography. Today, in fact, I was looking at some of the different some of the different forms of the molecule that exists at the mass overcharge ratio of M plus H at about 315.23 to 315.24 atomic mass units. And you get this whole array of peaks in a chromatograph display. You get CBD, and then you get some THC at some point, and then at a much higher mass, up around I think 359, you get CBDA with a carboxylic acid, and you have these other peaks in there that might be CBGs or CBNs. They're so many of them have similar masses that they might look the same from a mass point of view, but they elute at different times in the liquid chromatography columns. So you can see them. You can see them if you use the right instrumentation. And yet, many of them share the same molecular elements. They have the same number of carbons, the same number of hydrogens, and the same number of oxygens, for example. And they have the same molecular weight. It's just that they're arranged differently. They're connected differently, which is just a fascinating metaphor for what this plant can do. And if you think about hemp, you have to ask yourself this question: how does this plant synthesize these amazing healing medicines? How does it do it? I mean, for example, if you look at THC, all it is carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. That's it. That's all it is, okay? It's carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen in a certain formation, in a certain structural pattern of connectedness. That's it. There are no other elements in it. So how did a plant, first of all, where does it get this stuff? Where does it get the carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen? Well, the answer is it grabs the carbon right out of the air. And it grabs hydrogen and oxygen. It can actually get that by breaking apart water, for example, or getting carbon from many other sources, hydrogen from other sources. The plants are actually extracting elements from the natural environment, from the soil, from the water, and from the air. There's carbon in the air, right? It's called carbon dioxide. And if you have carbon dioxide, you have oxygen in that molecule as well. The plants can take that, and then they break it apart, essentially, and then they use the oxygen and they use the carbon, and they bring in some hydrogen, and they make THC. Think about that. That should blow your mind. It is an actual synthesis that is being conducted by this plant. It is manufacturing medicine. And it's doing it without a patent, without a lobbyist in Washington. It doesn't charge you royalties. It doesn't require FDA testing and approval to be what it is. It builds these medicines because that's in its nature. Scientists to this day, they have no idea how these plants pull molecules out of the air and rearrange them into these molecular formulas that are powerful anti-cancer medicines. They have no idea how this happens. I mean, yeah, I guess some of them might be able to sort of name some of the plant processes, but it doesn't mean they understand them. You can say, those are magnets over there, but it doesn't mean you understand how magnetism works. Just giving something a name doesn't mean you grok it, so to speak. So the synthesis of these medicines is happening inside these plants, even when these plants are very, very tiny. Almost from the first moment that they sprout, they come out of the seed, they begin to produce powerful medicines that can help save humanity. And they do this automatically, naturally, with no demands and no inputs on your part other than just the sunlight they need for the energy, the air that they need for materials, the water, the soil. That's it. They do the work. There are many people in our world today who are looking for answers. There are many societies that are looking for answers to health, societies that are going bankrupt from healthcare costs spiraling out of control and prescription painkillers and opioid addiction killing people left and right, and people dying from cancer. And they're looking for answers. And you know what, people? The answer is growing as a weed It's in your own backyard, probably, for some of you on purpose, some of you accidentally. It's in the forests. It's in the fields. It grows like a weed all across many regions of North America. And it is there for the taking. It is the answer for many, many cases of cancer, many cases of epilepsy, many cases of even psychological disorders or sleep disorders or nervousness. It is an amazing, powerful medicine that is so abundant and so effective and so affordable that the governments of the world had to criminalize it. Think about that. The governments looked at this plant, and behind closed doors, they realized this is so powerful. This is so therapeutic. This has so much incredible medicine available for virtually no cost that we have to ban it. We have to criminalize it. We have to make sure that people don't have access to this medicine, because this medicine might put the drug companies out of business. This medicine might allow people to heal without having to go see a doctor all the time and pay all that money to the health insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies and the hospitals and the diagnostic companies. My God, if people could heal themselves by eating, smoking, drinking, absorbing a weed in their own backyard, then how the hell is the sick care industry supposed to make any money? You see? And so they criminalized a plant. A plant! A plant that has been part of this nation's history since its founding, and existed long before that. A plant that delivers to humanity so many answers on health and medicine and economics and agriculture and nutrition and fibers and materials for construction. Even polymers can come out of this plant. This plant is God's gift to humankind, and humanity is so incredibly stupid and idiotic that they criminalize it to protect all the other interests, to protect, oh my God, you got to protect the cotton industry, and you got to protect the opioid pharmaceutical industry, and you got to protect, all these other monopolies and cartels that are making money by depriving you access to this extraordinary healing plant, which is hemp. The more I've come to understand about this plant, the more angry I am that the governments of the world have systematically and deliberately denied humanity access to this astonishing solution. And now, more and more, I get it. When I used to see like weed-smoking hippies running around at festivals talking about how hemp was going to save the world, and I thought, these dudes are high, man. But now, as a scientist, I actually get it. I get what they were saying. They were high, but they weren't wrong, okay? They just went at it from a different angle. They were smoking it and feeling something, and it was part of their little culture and society, and that's fine. I've never been against anybody having a recreational pursuit of a relatively mild drug like that, but that's not my focus. My focus has always been the nutrition and the science, and now that I'm getting into the science, it's so fascinating that I'm coming to the same conclusion as the high hippies. It's like these people were totally right. This is a miracle medicine for humanity. This plant can save humanity, and we've only begun to tap into this. Who knows what else is in there? I'm looking at this plant. I'm looking at the mass spectra on the time of flight system. I see stuff in there. I don't even have any idea what it is. It's like there's 1,000 molecules in there that have yet to be really discovered and documented and understood for their potential medicinal or nutritional values. And typically, we, in the lab science, looking at hemp, we only look at 5 molecules. That's right, 5 molecules. It's the cannabidiolic acid, the CBD, the THC, and then the carboxylic acid form of THC, the THCA, and then the CBN, the cannabinoids. That's 5 out of 1,000. And yeah, maybe those are the most important 5, but what else is in there? What other uses could there be for that plant? And what's really fascinating is to think about the interactions here. How can these molecules interact with other molecules from other plants? Medicinal mushrooms, for example, or turmeric, for example. How can these interact also with the gut biology, the microbiology that's living inside you, microbes that actually transform molecules and chemicals into other forms inside your gut? How might CBDs or THC in an edible, non-psychoactive format, for example, how might these molecules interact with healthy gut flora to resynthesize and reform powerful anti-cancer medicines right in your own gut? See, these are the kinds of questions that I'm asking as a food scientist. Can you swallow these molecules from a hemp extract, and if they're paired with the right microbiology inside your body, might they actually manufacture inside you potent anti-cancer medicines or healing medicines that have an effect far beyond anything ever imagined in the raw plant itself? We have to start thinking in terms of the synergistic effects of these molecules and how they interact with the bacteria in your body, or how they interact with other curcuminoids or phycocyanins, or all kinds of other molecules in other plants and superfoods and nutritive sources. Because we're talking about synergy here. We're talking about harmony. See, this is what's beautiful about nature. This is one thing that I've really come to learn and observe being a food scientist, is that when you combine toxic synthetic chemicals made by man, they become more and more toxic. But when you combine harmonic natural molecules from nature, they tend to become more and more harmonious. Like building chords in a choir and adding octaves of the chords that are all working in harmony together. This is what happens with natural molecules. It tends to work that way. Whereas, again, synthetic toxic molecules from man tend to multiply their toxicity as they are combined. And this very concept, the thing I just mentioned, completely escapes the entire realm of modern science. The chemicals are typically only tested in isolation, never in combination. Toxicities are never really measured or tested in combination. And the synergies of healing nutrients or superfoods or plant extracts are almost never tested in combination either. And you know why? Because mathematically, there are too many combinations. You start putting together all the permutations and combinations. You start combining 3 chemicals and then 4 and then 5 out of a list of thousands. How can anybody test all of these things? You can't. I am inspired by it. This is changing my entire understanding of what is nutrition. And this is not just simply about vitamins and minerals and antioxidants. That just barely scratches the surface of how plants can interact with our neurology, our consciousness, our biology, our genetic code to unleash the pattern of spontaneous healing that is embedded in certain portions of our genes and so on.
An alert to our leaders. Please legalize the cultivation of industrial hemp to stop the killings of farmers, stop the destruction of their crops, and increase our gross domestic product immensely. This is a call to action. I wish that after watching this movie, Nigerians at home and abroad will join together to plead with our political leaders to quickly legalize the cultivation of industrial hemp, not marijuana. Finally, a security and safety message to the President and the members of the National Assembly. Please authorize research into producing affordable, bulletproof automobile body parts from the industrial hemp. We need that. To the viewers, please stay on the President and the members of the National Assembly until legalization is achieved. Thank you for watching.